MCU getting predictable? Maybe, but that's all about to change. The Thunderbolts are bringing the grit, America Chavez is unlocking the multiverse, Sentry could rewrite reality, and the Fantastic Four are finally here. These newcomers are complex, powerful, and ready to shake things up. The MCU's future is anything but predictable now. Kicking off our list at number 10, we've got a team that's going to redefine what it means to be a hero, or maybe just an anti-hero. I am talking about, of course, the Thunderbolts. This isn't your grandma's Avengers, folks. Forget shiny armor and goody two-shoes attitudes. The Thunderbolts are a crew of reformed villains and morally ambiguous operatives handpicked by Contessa Valentina Allegra de Fontaine to do the dirty work that no one else will. They're the MCU's answer to a morally gray Black Ops team, and they are about to turn things upside down. We're talking about a roster that's stacked with heavy hitters like US Agent, a Captain America gone rogue, Yelena Belova, the dangerous Black Widow, the ever-loyal Winter Soldier, Bucky Barnes, the hilarious and powerful Red Guardian, the mysterious Taskmaster, and the phasing powerhouse Ghost. These heroes don't play by the rules. They're rough around the edges, they've got baggage, and they're not afraid to get their hands dirty in the name of whatever mission they're assigned. What makes the Thunderbolts such game changers? For starters, they're ushering in a darker, grittier tone to the MCU. They're gonna push the boundaries of what is acceptable in a hero, and we cannot wait to see it. This team's dynamic is a powder keg waiting to explode, and we're here for every glorious, messy second of it. Coming in at number 9, we have the Soviet super soldier himself, the Red Guardian. Russia's answer to Captain America, Alexei is a Cold War relic with a story as fascinating as his powers. This guy's got enhanced strength, speed, and durability, making him a formidable opponent in pretty much any fight. But Red Guardian is more than just brute force. He's a father figure, albeit a flawed one, to Yelena and Natasha. He's got a surprisingly good heart underneath that gruff exterior and a fierce loyalty to his family, both blood and found. Red Guardian brings a unique international perspective to the MCU, reminding us that the world of superheroes extends beyond America's borders. His presence opens up a treasure trove of possibilities for exploring Cold War history, global conflicts, and the complex web of international espionage. And let's not forget his history with the Winter Soldier. This connection adds another layer to Bucky's already complicated past, hinting at shared traumas and unresolved conflicts that are sure to play out in exciting ways. Alright folks, get ready for some controversy, because at number 8 we have the one and only US Agent. Where do we even begin? John Walker is a decorated soldier who is given the super soldier serum and the mantle of Captain America. US Agent is a stark reminder that power without responsibility is a dangerous recipe. He's got the physical enhancements of Captain America, but his methods are brutal, his temper is short, and his moral compass is, let's just say, it needs some serious recalibration. He's a walking embodiment of patriotism gone wrong, a cautionary tale of what happens when a hero loses his way. US Agent's presence throws a wrench into the very idea of what it means to be a hero in the MCU. He forces us to question the symbols we hold dear and the individuals we choose to represent them. Prepare to be amazed by number 7, the phasing anti-heroine known as Ghost. Ava Starr's story is as tragic as it is fascinating. Exposed to quantum energy in a lab accident, she gained the ability to become intangible, walk through walls, and even deliver powerful phased punches. Ghost's powers are a double-edged sword. They make her a formidable opponent, but they also cause her immense suffering. She's constantly battling her own body, desperately seeking a cure for her condition. Her story adds another layer to the MCU's ongoing exploration of the consequences of power. She's a living example that not all superpowers are glamorous, and sometimes the greatest battles are fought within ourselves. Her motivations are complex, her methods are questionable, but her pain is undeniably real. She's a powerful addition to the MCU, and her story is far from over. At number 6, get ready to have your minds blown wide open, because we have the dimension-hopping powerhouse herself, America Chavez. This young hero is a literal game changer, possessing the incredible ability to punch star-shaped portals that allow her to travel through the multiverse. You heard that right, America Chavez can literally punch her way through different realities. Talk about a power that opens up endless possibilities. Her arrival in the MCU is kind of like opening Pandora's box, but instead of unleashing evils, it's unleashing infinite universes. The multiverse is at our fingertips, and the implications are staggering. But America is more than just her powers. She represents a new generation of heroes, diverse, powerful, and ready to face any challenge that the multiverse throws their way. She's a symbol of hope and resilience, a testament to the strength of youth, and a reminder that anyone can be a hero no matter where they come from. But hold on to your hats, folks, because number 5 on our list is a hero so powerful he could rewrite the entire fabric of the MCU. I am talking about the one, the only, Sentry. This guy is basically Marvel's answer to Superman, possessing strength that rivals the Hulk, the ability to fly, near invulnerability, and even the power to manipulate matter. But here's the kicker, he's got a dark side, a terrifying entity known as the Void, which is the literal embodiment of all his his fears, doubts, and negative emotions. Sentry is basically carrying the power of 1,000 exploding suns, with the mind of someone who needs some serious therapy. Sentry's introduction to the MCU is a huge deal, and his appearance in Thunderbolts is highly anticipated. He's potentially the most powerful being in this universe, capable of reshaping reality itself. But it's not just his power that makes him so compelling, it's his internal struggle, his constant battle against the void, that adds a whole new layer of depth to this character. And here's a theory that's been buzzing around the internet. Sentry's repressed memories and potential ties to Avengers Tower suggest he might have been a hero all along, a protector hidden in plain sight. Sentry is a ticking time bomb of power and psychological turmoil, and his arrival is going to send shockwaves through the entire MCU. Coming in at number 4, it's not just one hero, but a whole team that's about to redefine the meaning of family in the MCU, the Fantastic Four. They're not just any team, they are time-displaced heroes from the 1960s, stranded in a strange new world after a mission gone wrong. We are getting a whole team of heroes ripped straight out of another era. This family of adventurers, bound together by a cosmic ray mishap that granted them extraordinary powers, are bringing their unique brand of heroism to a world that desperately needs them. The Fantastic Four are Marvel's first family, and their arrival is a landmark moment for the MCU. They were the pioneers of a new kind of superhero story, one that embraced its characters' flaws and focused on the importance of human connection. Beyond their family dynamic, the Fantastic Four are connected to some of the biggest villains and cosmic entities in the Marvel Universe. Dr. Doom, Galactus, and the Silver Surfer, these are just a few of the iconic characters tied to the Fantastic Four's lore. Their arrival opens up a whole new world of storytelling possibilities, expanding the MCU's cosmic scope and introducing a new level of threat that will require all hands on deck. So leading the charge at number 3 is the brilliant and elastic leader of the Fantastic Four, Mr. Fantastic. Reed Richards is more than just a stretchy guy. He's one of the smartest minds in the Marvel Universe. This scientific genius can stretch, contort, and reshape his body into virtually any form imaginable, making him a surprisingly versatile fighter and an invaluable problem solver. Mr. Fantastic's intellect is his greatest weapon. He's a master of science and technology, capable of inventing incredible gadgets, devising complex strategies, and understanding the very fabric of reality. His arrival in the MCU isn't just about adding another powerful hero to the roster. It's about introducing a scientific mind that could revolutionize technology and push the boundaries of what's possible. He's the kind of hero who can outsmart his opponents as easily as he can outfight them. Mr. Fantastic is about to stretch the limits of the MCU, both literally and figuratively. But coming in at a very close second is the heart and soul of the Fantastic Four, the powerful and compassionate Invisible Woman. Susan Storm is a formidable hero possessing the ability to turn invisible, create powerful force fields, and even generate invisible energy blasts. Invisible Woman is the glue that holds the Fantastic Four together. She's the voice of reason, the moral compass, and the unwavering protector of her family. Her powers are a reflection of her inner strength and resilience. She can be as subtle as a whisper or as powerful as a hurricane, depending on what the situation demands. Invisible Woman's presence in the MCU is a major step forward for female representation in superhero films. She's not a damsel in distress or a sidekick. She's a strong, independent hero who can hold her own in any fight and protect those she loves with unwavering determination. Her powers and strategic thinking make her a vital asset to the team, and her compassion and empathy make her a true leader. And finally, folks, our number 1 newest hero changing the MCU is the ever-loving blue-eyed Thing. Ben Grimm, the rock-skinned powerhouse of the Fantastic Four, is a testament to the power of inner strength and unwavering loyalty. This guy is the muscle of the team, possessing super strength, incredible durability, and a heart of gold. The Thing's transformation may have made him a monster on the outside, but it also revealed his true heroism within. He's a loyal friend, a fierce protector, and a constant source of strength for the Fantastic Four. The Thing's arrival in the MCU is a powerful statement about overcoming adversity and embracing your inner strength. He's a reminder that even when life throws you the hardest punches, you can still find the strength to keep fighting. Thing is about to show the MCU that it's not about what you look like, it's about who you are on the inside, and that sometimes the greatest heroes are the ones who have to overcome the most. It's clobberin' time!
If you thought Deadpool was a brutal vigilante and sometimes straight up anti-hero, wait till you see him go up against Moon Knight. In Vengeance of the Moon Knight, issue number 8, these two face off. And while you might think Deadpool's healing factor would give him a leg up here, it is actually Moon Knight who comes out the victor in their fight. What's interesting is seeing the difference and similarities of these characters juxtaposed throughout their fight. Both are brutal in terms of their methods, both have their own voices in their head to deal with, and both of them are often heroes who are misunderstood. Sometimes they seem like the bad guys while trying to do the heroic thing. Their initial fight here doesn't last long though, as Moon Knight uses his sword to make Deadpool admit defeat. With him him surrendering, croaking out, "Uncle." And friends, before we move on to our next spot on this list, if you love what we do here at Top 10 Nerd, why not consider subscribing? Click that subscribe button. It feeds the algorithm. It's good for your soul. You should do it. Number 9, Black Panther. During Age of Khonshu in the 2018 run of Avengers, in issue number 33, Moon Knight faced off against pretty much all of the Avengers. One that he faced directly was Black Panther. Now, when he confronted T'Challa in Wakanda with his army of basically Khonshu worshippers, his presence was so intimidating, in addition to his previous encounters with Iron Fist, and Doctor Strange, that the two didn't even have to fight. Instead, Black Panther simply chose to surrender. Of course, this was strategic, but the fact remains that Moon Knight got what he wanted, a willful surrender from Black Panther without even having to come to blows. Instead, he just intimidated T'Challa into surrendering to him, even if it was, like I said, also possibly a strategic play on Black Panther's side. T'Challa would still end up imprisoned, tormented, and bound, forced to bow down to the power of Khonshu in the next issue. Number 8, Ultimate Spider-Man. When it comes to the Ultimate Universe, Moon Knight is an even more terrifying vigilante. At one point, he faces off against the Ultimate Universe version of Peter Parker's Spider-Man and manages to scare him off with how crazy and how powerful he is, and how scary he is, to be honest. Pretty impressive when you consider that normally Spider-Man would be considered more physically strong and overall more powerful than Mark and his Moon Knight persona. Why were these two even fighting? Well, Moon Knight has mistaken Spider-Man here for a criminal, but even Spider-Man was just intimidated by the hero and instead of sticking around, opted to just escape the fight instead. It's not a straight up defeat, but making Spider-Man retreat is not easy to do in most cases, and I personally would still consider if somebody retreats that they kind of lost that fight because they left. Number 7, Ghost Rider. How do you humble the Ghost Rider? How about stealing his wheels? For Robbie Reyes, that's one of the worst things you can do, steal his car. And that's exactly what Moon Knight set out to do and accomplished. While Robbie was asleep, Moon Knight basically managed to jack his car, which also drained Robbie of much of his power as Ghost Rider, as that power was actually tied to his car. Moon Knight simply took the car and drove off into the night with it in issue number 33, part 1 of the Age of Khonshu story from the 2018 run of Avengers. This was also the first part of that story, and to really humble Robbie Reyes, he was only one of a few heroes who had their source of power taken by Moon Knight, all in this one single issue. Number 6, Spider-Man. Not only has Moon Knight very physically humbled Spider-Man from the Ultimate Universe, or rather I guess I should say the old Ultimate Universe anyway, but he's also humbled the Spider-Man of Earth 616 in a very personal way. At one point, Mark Spector adopted certain personas which acted as additional split personalities as part of his dissociative identity disorder. You might be familiar with Stephen Grant, Jake Lockley, and Mr. Knight, but these personas were unlike any of those that Moon Knight sometimes adopts and uses. But these personas that I'm talking about here were unlike any of those others that Moon Knight sometimes adopts and uses that you probably are familiar with. These were people that existed separate from Mark, who he was basically impersonating, other heroes, one of them being Spider-Man. He donned Spider-Man's costume, literally impersonating him as he fought against the criminal underground of LA. At one point, this prompts Spider-Man, who was wrongfully, of course, getting critiqued for some of what Mark was up to ask Mark if he indeed dressed up as him and attacked an adult nightclub, to which Mark confirms, yes, he did. A little. Number 5, Captain Marvel. This one was particularly brutal, especially for me as a Carol fan. Another hero who was targeted during the Age of Khonshu story in the 2018 run of the Avengers was none other than Captain Marvel herself, Carol Danvers. Carol and Tony, aka Iron Man, were the last line of defense when it came to protecting the power of the Star Brand, which Khonshu wanted most of all. And when Moon Knight came to collect, he made surprisingly easy work of Carol here. He used the powers of Ghost Rider to basically incapacitate her, seemingly trapping her in the trunk of Robbie Reyes' Ghost Rider car. But as embarrassing as that predicament was for Captain Marvel, at least it was only very temporary. She quickly recovered, escaping from the trunk and flying in to save Starbrand and Iron Man, who according to Moon Knight looked like he was ready to consider handing over the young Starbrand host to Moon Knight and Khonshu due to the threat of Mephisto. In fact, even later, Iron Man's like, whatever you do, like, just you keep Starbrand. I probably shouldn't hold on to her. Number 4, Khonshu. I don't know if we exactly consider Khonshu to be a hero per se. He's kind of more neutral. He's done some good and often acts from a place of, believing, I would say, he's doing what is right, but he's not always correct about that. And sometimes even his best of intentions lead him to doing morally questionable things, let's say. Like in Age of Khonshu, when he struck out against the Avengers. He did this because he believed it needed to be done to defeat Mephisto, believing he needed to conquer Earth to, in essence, protect it from the Mephisto army that threatened to take control. So he was doing all this to, protect Earth. However, he was kind of wrong in that, because also conquering people, is that protecting them? Not really. And in the end, this prompted even his own avatar, Mark Spector, Moon Knight, to turn on him, with Moon Knight winning over the power of the Phoenix Force and using his own 2 fists of Khonshu to help defeat the Moon God. Or rather, his fists of Phoenix, really, at that time, I should say. Number 3, Daredevil. These two have a brief fight in the 1980 series of Moon Knight in issue number 13. Here, Daredevil is hot on the trail of a villain known as the Jester. Unfortunately, Moon Knight decides to interfere, as he cannot allow Dee to apprehend this criminal yet. He cuts the zip line that Daredevil is using to cut across part of the city, and Daredevil stumbles, or rather falls, sort of tumbles into an arcade, which discombobulates his radar sense, because as we know with Daredevil, he really needs his hearing to actually be able to see, making it pretty much impossible for him to see, or it's pretty wonky in that arcade due to all the arcade noise. The two get in a scuffle, and while Dee doesn't do a terrible job, I would say, of fighting against Moon Knight, considering at this moment he truly is really blind as a bat since his radar sense is affected, in the end he's defeated by Moon Knight, who throws his own billy club back at Dee. Fortunately, right afterwards, the two heroes talk and end up deciding to team up, as is usually the way of these things. But still, I mean, it's a Moon Knight comic, so what do we expect when Moon Knight and Daredevil fight? In a Moon Knight comic, I'm gonna expect Moon Knight to win, and he does. Number 2, Thor. Thor and Moon Knight had a very brief fight at the beginning of the Age of Khonshu event, where Thor was quickly put in his place. He does get revenge later on though, but that's a point for another list. The fight didn't last long, mainly because Moon Knight was actually able to wield Mjolnir. But not only that, not really so much wield, he was able to control the hammer. He was able to easily take it for himself. Thor, in fact, is one of the first heroes Moon Knight faces off with during this story, which is made all the more impressive when you consider that perhaps, apart from Hulk, Thor is often considered to be one of, if not the strongest Avenger that we have. Moon Knight simply lets Thor know that the metal his hammer is made of, Uru, believed to be one of the oldest metals in the universe, actually comes from an orb of night. That is, a moon. It's moon metal, guys. It's moon rock. And because it is in essence made of that powerful moon rock, it's within Moon Knight's control to manipulate said weapon, since he's an avatar of the god of the moon. Number 1, Moon Knight. Yep. At one point, Moon Knight defeated himself. He actually also faced himself in the very important Moon Knight story told throughout the Avengers, Age of Khonshu. Here, Moon Knight in the end realizes that he kind of might be the problem here and decides that, he's done working for Khonshu. He's kind of done with gods, preferring to pray only to himself. In his final fight in the story against Black Panther, he ends up on the losing side of this fight and begs for Black Panther to finish it. To be clear, this is another fight that happens with Black Panther later on, not the first one that I talked about earlier on. However, Black Panther refuses to take Mark's life, permanently defeating Mark here. Instead, Mark decides to just finish it himself because he has to finish that prayer. So he punches himself so hard that he's basically reborn as the Phoenix.
Kicking things off today, we're looking at an alternate Earth that is probably one of the most obvious ways to change things up. Earth 8311, also known as Larval Earth, is home to anthropomorphic animal superheroes. There are no humans here. Instead, this universe has what is called an anthropomorphic field that has an effect on animals, changing them into humanoid versions of themselves with the ability to speak. This happened to one of the inhuman Lockjaw's siblings. Her name was Doc Jaw. She was taken in by Mr. Fantastic, and yes, that's Mr. Fantastic, as a moose. And he trained her to become a pretty accomplished scientist. But she is far from the only animal to make a name for themselves here. Arguably, the most well-known of Larval Earth's denizens would be Peter Porker, aka Spider-Ham. But others include Daredevil, Nick Fury, the Agents of Sheep, and And the one that caught me off guard the most, Black Panda. On the villainous side of things, we have Magsquito, Sand Manatee, and Kangaroo the Conqueror, which is just fantastic. Now, following the events of the superhuman civil war, people were a little bummed out. Understandably so. That little conflict didn't end in laughs, shaking hands, and happy smiles. It ended in tears, broken friendships, and fallen allies. So, naturally, Reed Richards can't just accept reality for what it is, and he goes searching for alternate Earths where things didn't go so badly in Dark Reign Fantastic Four #2 from April of 2009. But of course, things go south. A power outage causes Reed's machine to go a little off the chain. In an alternate timeline created by the machine, Susan Storm, the Invisible Woman, rules a medieval world taking the name Queen Storm. Her throne is flanked by her brother Johnny in full plate armor, and the Thing dressed like an aristocrat. She seems to be leading one side of a medieval superhuman civil war. We see Captain America, Iron Fist, Cable, Daredevil, and Luke Cage Power Man as they prepare for a battle with a man with an iron heart who is just outside the castle preparing to attack with his group. Now, before the conflict begins, we get to hear Chamberlain Grimm say his classic line, "Milady, 'tis the clobbering hour," and it's fantastic. But before we can see more, we move to other alternate timelines. In Uncanny X-Men number 153, Kitty Pryde has to tell Colossus's little sister Illyana a bedtime story. So what does she do? She comes up with an adorable little story recasting her friends as pirates, wizards, genies, and for one of my faves, Nightcrawler. Kitty turns him into little tiny Nightcrawlers that look eerily like Smurfs that she calls Bamfs. At first, there's just one, and it pops up and immediately falls in love with Kitty before like 10 of the little guys start popping up. But this is a comic book. Why tell a bedtime story when that bedtime story could easily just become a completely different universe that actually exists? Thanks to a mishap in the X-Men's Danger Room, Nightcrawler is transported to another dimension where the characters from Kitty's story, including all the Bamfs, really exist. And that place is Earth 5311. 1979's What If number 14 gives us a very different approach to history. Instead of World War II being fought in Europe, it is instead fought in space. In this alternate timeline, we discovered interstellar travel much earlier in our history, and as such, the World War II we fight is more like space sector war between Sector Alpha and Sector Beta in space, and I do not know where that is. As this is still set at the same general time as the regular World War II, some of the same characters are going to be involved, including the original Nick Fury and his Howling Commandos. This story has new high-tech weaponry, fishbowl helmets, and aliens, and it's just a good bit of fun. Now, we learn in the story that Admiral Von Strucker is actually working with the alien Axis powers to create a master race, so it seems that even in this alternate world where we can master interstellar travel, we can't really just figure out racism. Now, in the alternate reality of AD 3167, which appeared in Extraordinary X-Men number 11 from June 2016, Apocalypse showed up in the 21st century, bringing with him the Great Trials. Now, this event saw the end of entire civilizations and races on Earth and left only the Atlanteans, the Inhumans, an AI race known as the Stark Self, the Wakandans, the Mystics, and the Maloids. And they all lived under Apocalypse's rule on Omega World. This was a huge structure composed of bubble worlds that preserved what little remained of Earth after Apocalypse's ascension. The part that will blow your mind is that Omega World itself, the entire structure, is Apocalypse. He still had a human form, and that essentially functioned as the Omega World's heart, keeping the whole place functional. At the same time, his horsemen functioned as like Omega World's antibodies, being sent out to cleanse the structure of anything that could harm their master. The mutant Colossus and a bunch of young mutants were transported here, where Colossus was captured and became another of Apocalypse's horsemen. Apocalypse was now after an ark being held by the mutant kids that contained thousands of mutant embryos. He should have left it all alone though, because it got him a good old sword in the back by the end of the story. That doesn't matter though, because the world is cool. Taking place on Earth 97161, Simon Walterson was a pretty killer football player whose career came crashing down due to a knee injury. Simon found the love of his life, married her, had a kid, and then they both passed away. But wait, it gets even worse. Simon got himself cursed by a witch after he wasn't able to pay her for connecting him with his wife and child in the afterlife. Now, this This curse turned Simon from a strapping man into a frog. Simon luckily found himself being accepted into a frog clan that lived in Central Park, and Simon took on the frog name of Puddlegup. Now, Puddlegup managed to assist the god of thunder Thor in a war between rats and frogs. After the fight, a piece of Thor's hammer, Mjolnir, was broken off, and Puddlegup was able to lift the sliver of hammer, which then transformed into a miniature version of Thor's hammer, and it turned Puddlegup into the mighty Throg, a frog with the powers of Thor. This world is the home of the Pet Avengers, a group of animals who belong to or are related in some way to various superheroes and who manage to form together as a team. Fantastic. Neil Gaiman's Marvel 1602 is one of my favorite comic book stories, but I will admit it can be a little weird. Basically, to lay it out, the universe the story takes place in, Earth 311, actually got its start in a different alternate reality. On Earth 460, Purple Man had used his powers of persuasion to become president for life. In that world, most heroes had been hunted down or had died from old age, but Captain America was one holdout. Unfortunately, he is captured and banished away to Earth 616's 1599. But because he showed up in the world, it inadvertently, and for some reason, created an entirely different alternate timeline known as Earth 311. For some reason, the presence of Captain America destabilized reality and began the emergence of heroes and villains into this world who are counterparts to many of the present day heroes and villains of the Marvel Universe that we are used to. Characters like Count Otto Von Doom the Handsome, Witchbreed, who are actually mutants, Thor from the Fantastic, Sir Nicholas Fury, David Banner, all these guys. These are some of the alternate versions of these characters. The story is so interesting, intertwining actual history with superpowered beings, but it's not without its confusing moments, and most of that has to do with how this story's world even came to be in the first place. While originally a crossover advertisement deal between Marvel Comics and Hostess, you know, the company that owns Twinkies, Snowballs, and those cupcake snack pastries, the Spider-Man of Earth 51914 is an official member of the Spider-Verse, being defeated by Morlun in the first Spider-Verse comic in 2014. But Morlun has defeated many spider totems, it's his whole thing. This Spider-Man is still more powerful than you may think. This sweet Spider-Man has all the same powers as our 616 spider-based hero, only has the added benefit of using Hostess snacks as equipment, whether it be to distract, lure, or even reason with criminals, and it even got him out of tight spots in his relationships. Like when he gave Mary Jane a cupcake so that he could slip away to fight crime. The power of sweet pastries should not be undervalued. Now, using his pastry-based equipment, he was able to defeat the Fly, Printout Man, Simon the Evil Swami, Madam Web, Legal Eagle, and an unnamed jewel thief. So yeah, it's not just a sponsor, it's an actual added ability that puts him a cut above. Unfortunately, this all happened before Morlun showed up and sucked out Hosty Spidey's life force, which was apparently quite sweet. Marvel Max was a 2001 imprint for Marvel that focused on more mature adult stories. As a result, the books were pretty over the top, and that was really their selling factor. But some were just incredibly weird, like the Eternal Max. Essentially, the Eternal Max follows the Eternals, but other than being the immortal servants of the Celestials, these guys are quite different. Taking place just before the dawn of mankind, the Eternals had been serving the Celestials for thousands of years, traveling from planet to planet to mine resources. When the Eternals arrive on a planet, they genetically modify some of the local intelligent life into artificial Eternals, which they call deviants, and they use them as manual labor to make the job easier. When they arrive on Earth though, they do the same thing, turning the proto-humans into deviants. But these deviants are shockingly similar to the Eternals, who are also shockingly similar to us. Now, in the past, the Celestials wiped out every single one of the female Eternals in order to force the male Eternals into servitude. So when these new deviants are created, the male Eternals get all googly-eyed for the female deviants. A large number of the Eternals go against the rules and teach the deviants how to communicate, and they begin to procreate with them. This leads to essentially a mini civil war among the Eternals between their leader Icodin and the second in command, Crassus. It all leads into the Eternals and these deviants basically becoming the first real humans on Earth. At least, That's kind of how I interpreted it. If you are over the age of 18, definitely give it a read because it is really interesting, but also very mature. And finally, if you have never read Marvel, just prepare yourself. This comic kind of just goes and doesn't really stop. The entire thing is satire, but like not good satire like at all. There's even a page in each issue dedicated to explaining the jokes, and the story itself barely has any kind of actual plot. It's just, well, it was all part of a bet. In 2002, Bill Jemas was vice president at Marvel Comics. He got into an argument with Peter David, and the two of them made a bet. Each would write a comic book starting from issue number 1 to see whose comic could sell more copies. Peter started Captain Marvel, and Bill started Marvel. Marvel features a Superman parody named Kal-AOL, who is the son of Ted Turner and Jane Fonda. It features a farting dog, a racist Iron Man, a farting Rush Limbaugh, scantily clad women for no reason, time travel for no reason, a person who may or may not be God, duckbill dinosaurs that talk, rants about how evolution is fake, and then, what is probably the highlight of the comic, they grab a Jurassic otter, and as they move closer to the modern day, that otter not only evolves to become Wolverine, but that otter Wolverine is also the father of the entire human race.
Number 10. Emily Bright. Making her first appearance in Strange Academy issue 1 in 2020, Emily Bright was born with an innate connection to magic. Even as a young child, her abilities manifested in these subtle ways, such as healing injured animals with a simple touch. Her life changed forever when Doctor Strange personally invited her to enroll in Strange Academy, a school of course dedicated to training the next generation of sorcerers. Now at the academy, Emily learns advanced spells, elemental control, and how to summon mystical energies. However, her raw magical potential is both a gift and a curse. She often finds herself a target for dark entities eager to harness her power, including forces from dimensions that she never even knew existed. Emily's journey is all about self-discovery and responsibility as she struggles to balance her desire for a normal life with the burden of protecting the magical realms. Hashtag first world problems. Number 9. Doyle Dormamu. Making his first appearance in Strange Academy 1 in 2020, Doyle Dormamu is the teenage son of Dormammu, the infamous ruler of the Dark Dimension, and of course a long-standing enemy of Doctor Strange. Now despite his fiery skull and lineage and all that scary stuff, Doyle seeks to forge his own path, but this time as a hero. At Strange Academy, he works tirelessly to prove that he is more than his father's legacy. Doyle's powers include fire manipulation, invulnerability to heat, and the ability to tap into the interdimensional magic. However, his journey is marked by internal conflicts. He often questions whether he can escape the darkness of his ancestry or if his father's influence is too deeply ingrained. Doyle's dynamic relationships with his classmates, especially Emily Bright, add depth to his character, showcasing that his struggle to balance friendship, heroism, and the constant threat of his father's looming control is a pretty hard one to balance. Number 8. Eve Warlock. Making her first appearance in Warlock Rebirth 1 back in 2023, in the world of the Christian Bible, if you know Adam, then you also must have heard of Eve. Well, Marvel takes this idea and introduces a new female counterpart to Adam Warlock called Eve Warlock. Genetically engineered to be the perfect woman, in quotes, Eve surpasses Adam in nearly every aspect, making her a powerful and an intriguing figure in this reimagined origin story of the iconic Marvel hero. Created by the High Evolutionary, Eve Warlock initially defies her creator's intentions and, like Adam, seeks her own path as a hero within Earth 616. However, unlike many heroes, she's not known for her compassion or her friendliness. You can't have them all, folks. Eve tends to keep to herself, avoiding interactions with others and distancing herself from the conventional ideals of heroism. Now, this aloofness and lack of sympathy make her a unique addition to the Marvel Universe, with her character developing beyond the shadow of Adam Warlock's legacy. Number 7. Samurai Venom. Pretty self-explanatory, let's dive in. Making his first appearance in Extreme Venomverse number 1 back in May 2023, in a unique twist on the symbiote saga, Samurai Venom takes the fusion of ancient warrior culture and Venom to thrilling new heights. Originating from an alternate Earth, this version of Venom combines the power of the symbiote with the discipline and ferocity of a samurai. Now, although Samurai Venom has only appeared in 2 Marvel comics in 2023 and met a untimely demise, the concept of a symbiote wielding warrior offers rich potential for future stories. It's pretty badass. Given Marvel's tradition of reinventing symbiotes, there's always a chance for this character to return. I mean, we hope. The origin of Samurai Venom is set in motion when an Oscorp employee stumbles upon this mysterious black sword. Upon drawing the blade, Takemoto, the unsuspecting wielder, is then bonded with the Venom symbiote, transforming into Samurai Venom. This dimensional character brings a fresh and visually striking take on the classic symbiote, and while he exists in an alternate universe, the idea of a Venom samurai could certainly find its way back into the core Marvel continuity, perhaps as a historical figure on Earth 616. Never say never. Number 6. Hunter's Moon. Making their first appearance in Moon Knight issue 3 2021, Hunter's Moon, aka Dr. Batter, is a devout follower of Khonshu, the Egyptian moon god, and serves as a counterpart to Mark Spector's Moon Knight. Batter views himself as the god's loyal servant, upholding Khonshu's will without question. Hunter's Moon possesses enhanced strength, agility, and healing abilities, especially during a full moon, of course, as well as access to Khonshu's divine magic. His character brings an intriguing moral contrast to Moon Knight, questioning whether blind faith or moral ambiguity is a better path. As both an ally and a rival, Hunter's Moon challenges Mark Spector to reconsider his relationship with Khonshu and the nature of his mission. Number 5. Wagnerine. Making their first appearance in Nightcrawler's issue 1 in 2023, Wagnerine from Earth TRN-993 is the result of Mr. Sinister's experiment, blending the powers of Nightcrawler and Wolverine into a single weaponized mutant. With both teleportation and claws, she's a force to be reckoned with. Though her time in the comics was brief, her fierce determination to protect her child, even at a great personal cost, of course makes her a memorable character. Wagnerine's fusion of iconic abilities offers a fresh twist on familiar mutants and left a lasting mark on Marvel's multiverse. That's the two powers you'd want, really. Teleportation and some claws? Game over, pal. Number 4. Scarlet Scarab. Making their first appearance in Moon Knight 25 2023, originally they were introduced in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Layla Al-Fawli made her comic debut as the Scarlet Scarab in 2023. Her story adds depth to Mark Spector's journey, pushing him towards becoming Moon Knight. After his passing, Layla was resurrected by the goddess Tawarit and returned as a powerful protector of the Egyptian god's City of the Dead. With her new abilities, she teams up with Moon Knight, forming a compelling duo that brings fresh excitement to Marvel Comics. Her powers and evolving relationship with Moon Knight promise more thrilling adventures in the Marvel Universe. We didn't get a lot of her in the Moon Knight show. I wonder if we'll get more in season 2. I wonder if we'll get a season 2 at this point. I mean, who knows? Number 3. Iron Fire. Making their first appearance in Sins of Sinister 2023, Iron Fire was introduced in the dystopian future of Sins of Sinister. It's a mutant with the unique ability to transmute his blood into weapons and armor. Now, in a world where Sinister has taken fully control, Iron Fire becomes a leader in the Resistance, using his powers to fight for mutant freedom. His character embodies resilience and defiance, representing an unyielding spirit of those who resist oppression. So when brought into the main timeline, Iron Fire's knowledge of future events, of course, makes him a valuable, albeit haunted, ally in preventing Sinister's schemes from coming to fruition. Number 2. Sora the Cyclone. Making her first appearance in Avengers Assemble Omega 1 back in 2023, Sora the Cyclone is a Wakandan meteorologist turned superhero, and she's chosen to represent her nation on a multiversal Avengers team. Her powers, derived from Wakandan experiments with vibranium and atmospheric technology, this allows her to control wind currents, summon tornadoes, and manipulate the weather on a localized scale. Sora's intelligence and tactical mind make her a critical asset in battle, while her Wakandan heritage ties her to her people's deep cultural and technological roots. And finally, number 1, Spider-Boy Bailey Briggs. Making his first appearance in Spider-Man April 2023, Bailey Briggs became Spider-Boy after being taken and having his DNA spliced by Madame Monstrosity. His tragic origin mirrors that of many masked heroes, but his powers allowed him to stand proudly alongside Spider-Man as his sidekick. Now, despite a complex relationship with Peter Parker, including Otto Octavius' time as Superior Spider-Man, Spider-Boy brings this optimistic energy to the team, which is always fun. Though he's not as popular as Miles Morales yet, or Peter Parker, nothing of that sort, Spider-Boy's charm and growing fan base earned him his own series in the same year that he was introduced, so he's off to a good start, so we'll probably see more of him to come. Maybe in Beyond the Spider-Verse, maybe we'll see a little Bailey Briggs. Who knows?
Just like most iconic superheroes, Hobie Brown started out as a window washer. Okay, yeah, we're off to a great start today. Okay, so Hobart here got caught in the middle of a fight between Stiltman and Daredevil. He was actually inspired by Stiltman's suit, and so he decided to become the Prowler. Hobart Brown was the first Prowler, and after accidentally thinking he took the life of Peter Parker, he confessed everything to Spider-Man and decided to start fighting villains instead. Hobie then had a lot of interaction with Spider-Man. He impersonated the web-slinger, but to help Peter retain his secret identity, he fought Spider-Man when he believed the hero had wiped out Captain Stacy, and he had his costume stolen by multiple dudes who impersonated him, who were caught by Spider-Man. And most recently, he debuted as the Hornet with a new suit and helped fend off the symbiote invasion using hacked Stark phones to broadcast a high-frequency sound to repel the symbiotes away. The Kasani Native American tribe had been using selective breeding and shamanistic magic for 10 generations to ensure the proper heir would be born to inherit great physical prowess. Thomas Fireheart was the result of all that effort. As the protector of his tribe, he gained the ability to undergo a transformation, turning him into a werecat. As Puma, he is an internationally known professional assassin and mercenary. But what really threw me for a loop was this next part. Thomas's tribe had an ancient prophecy that foretold of a powerful being, and that their hero, the Puma, would have the power to oppose this being. That being was the Beyonder. But funnily enough, when he reached a state of harmonious enlightenment with the universe, Thomas was imbued with immeasurable power. Unfortunately though, self-doubt, spurred on by Spider-Man, actually caused him to lose the fight with the Beyonder. Jericho Drum, 1, has a really cool name, but 2, is the master practitioner of voodoo white magic according to the Book of Ashanti, and he has been stated as one of the most powerful mystic practitioners on the planet. Which is why it makes sense that he was the one to become the new Sorcerer Supreme for a while in Doctor Strange's place after the Eye of Agamotto deemed that Jericho possessed a pure heart and a clean soul. Dr. Voodoo's main magical ability allows him to interact with spirits for a number of different effects. He can summon skeletons, the spirits of the dead, and can manipulate zombies with his necromancy. He can manipulate biological forces like animals and trees, as well as heal others, and he has even removed Frank Castle's mouth one time, which honestly, I wish more people would do. Dr. Voodoo also has a degree of pyrokinesis. He can control a voodoo smoke/mist and can manipulate and control people's souls, and that is all on top of the normal mystical abilities he possesses through spells, and that was actually increased in potential when he was trained by Doctor Strange and became the Sorcerer Supreme for a little while. Omega the Unknown is one of the wildest superhero concepts I have ever heard of. So basically, back in 1975, Howard the Duck and Man-Thing creator Steve Gerber created mechanical beings who lived out on a planet called Protaris, who were going to be wiped out due to changes to their planet's climate that they just couldn't adapt to. So they created biological humanoid beings who could succeed them, and they sent these beings off to other sentient worlds where they could learn and gain skills that they would then pass on to the next model, constantly improving. James Michael Starling was the final model who was sent to Earth. He had a psychic connection to the previous model, X3Z, who had gained the power of harnessing biospheric energy, which was then passed to James Michael Starling, and the Protarians, who knew this power would be too much for the creations, decided to set out to now destroy them. The character, as you can probably tell, was absolutely wild, but he really didn't stick with readers, with X3Z getting destroyed by the police in Las Vegas, and James completely vaporizing himself until he came back revealed to be stuck in Chthon's other realm in Darkhold Omega in 2022. As the leader of the Runaways, a member of A-Force, a former Masters of Evil in training, and the professor of creative spellcrafting at Strange Academy, Nico Manuro, aka Sister Grimm, is both weirdly unheard of by casual comic readers and really varied in her experiences. Her parents, along with the other Runaways' parents, were part of a mystical cult that performed sacrifices, and the Runaways formed in direct opposition to this. Nico herself has a magical aptitude, being able to cast flight, telekinesis, teleportation, and shielding spells all on her own with minimal training, but specifically she relies heavily upon a magical artifact called the Staff of One, or the Witchbreaker's Staff, but it has a pretty major limitation: the fact that it doesn't allow its wielder to cast the same spell twice. It will either just do nothing, or what is arguably worse, cast a completely random spell. I'm assuming that having to constantly work around this probably is what gave her the necessary experience to become Professor of Creative Spellcasting. Damon Hellstrom was born when the demon Marduk Kyrios, who also goes by the name of Satan, decided to have a child with a human woman as a way of accessing even greater power. After learning of his heritage, Hellstrom decided to turn his back on his father and vowed to fight against him, even eventually slaying his father and taking lordship over the dimension of Hell. Hellstrom has a Cambion physiology and wields crazy magical abilities, as well as commanding vast power in the Hell dimension itself. That Cambion physiology I mentioned gives Hellstrom super strength and durability, and due to his dark soul, he has shapeshifting and teleportation abilities as well as magical awareness. Hellstrom has also wielded a trident made of netherranium, which is a psychosensitive metal found only in his extra-dimensional Hell realm. While also being a pointy trident, the weapon is also a medium through which magical energies can be amplified and projected. All this magical abilities and connection to the world of demons made him an excellent occult expert and made him a perfect fit for the Midnight Suns. Now, some characters in comic books are created to be jokes. For me, that makes them the best obscure characters because you don't even have to feel bad for them, ever. Frogman is Eugene Patillo, the son of the former supervillain Leapfrog. His father Vincent battled Daredevil multiple times with his frog suit, which gave him the ability to leap great heights, courtesy of electrical coils in his boots, and that's the only power he had. So, he got defeated so many times that he retired from supervillainy. Eugene was constantly bullied for his father's failures, and eventually decided to take revenge on his bullies by wearing one of his father's old Leapfrog costumes, but Eugene decided to instead try and redeem his father's name by becoming the heroic Frogman. In the beginning, Frogman was more of an annoyance or distraction to other superheroes, but despite that, he has managed to defeat the likes of Speed Demon, White Rabbit, Walrus, Toad, Yellow Claw, and Flag Smasher, usually through sheer luck. Shroud is a pretty mysterious character in Marvel Comics who has come a long way from where he started. Orphaned at the age of 10 after witnessing the passing of his incredibly wealthy parents, Max Coleridge vowed to fight crime in any way he could, studying criminology and subjecting himself to a strict exercise regimen. He traveled through Asia and even studied for 7 years with a mysterious, sinister cult. Does any of this sound familiar? It's Batman. However, things took an interesting turn when the cult actually blinded Max and branded him with their mark. This granted Max a psychic perception that allowed him to see his environment within a radius of about 100 feet of him, even through solid walls. He went on to struggle really badly with his own sanity, and he gained Dark Force powers, upping his power levels, and more recently, he actually became the new Moon Knight, so hopefully that'll put him out of obscurity. Jason Strongbow was a man who tried to prevent developers from exploiting the environment that was sacred to his Navajo tribe. These developers just happened to be working in league with the villain Claw. When Jason and his brother Ward confronted Claw in the mines, the combination of radioactive rock and Claw's powerful sonics had the benefit of actually mutating Jason and his brother's genetic structure, giving Jason super strength, speed, and stamina, as well as incredibly strong senses, allowing him to see accurately at a distance of 800 feet. After gaining his powers, Jason took up the mantle of American Eagle, champion of the Navajo people. He and his brother then followed Claw to the Savage Land and defeated him with the help of Khazar and the Fantastic Four's The Thing. He opposed Tony Stark during the Civil War and fought against the Thunderbolts during Dark Reign, even paralyzing Bullseye, who was masquerading as Hawkeye at the time. And during the contest to decide who should gain the Phoenix Force, he actually defeated Luke Cage in combat before he was defeated by others. As iconic as a red, super intelligent dinosaur is, Devil Dinosaur is still actually pretty obscure when it comes to Marvel fans. Devil Dinosaur is a Tyrannosaurus Rex hailing from the alternate reality of Earth 78411, aka Dinosaur World. Now, in his youth, Devil Dinosaur was nearly consumed by a tribe of ruthless humans known as the Killer Folk, who inhabited this world. However, he was saved by Moon Boy, a young member of a rival tribe to the Killer Folk known as the Small Folk, which is kinda cute. Now, when Devil Dinosaur was exposed to the flames of the Killer Folk's fiery assault, the fiery baptism actually triggered a mutation within the dinosaur, granting him extraordinary powers beyond those of his kind. Specifically, it gave him the intelligence of an average human. Simultaneously, it also altered his once olive green skin to a striking and vibrant shade of flame red. Other than his intelligence and his red skin, Devil Dinosaur also exhibited unwavering loyalty to his companion, Moon Boy, who he shared a ton of adventures with, even eventually coming over to the main 616 Marvel Universe.
In at 10, Ultimate. The Ultimate Universe is very similar to the normal 616 counterpart. However, there are some differences that certainly make this thing scarier than the main continuity. Captain America is anti-French for some reason. Ultimate Mr. Fantastic Magic is a villain called the Maker. Ultimate Thanos is gold instead of purple. Oh yeah, and Ultimate Magneto is way too dark compared to Prime Magneto. Prime Magneto hates humans, but Ultimate Magneto is like a tyrant in that he considers all humans insects. Ultimate Wolverine is shown to be interested in teenage girls, while Earth 616 Wolverine is more honorable because sure, okay, Earth 616 Cyclops and Wolverine didn't see eye to eye, but Wolverine would never have killed Cyclops just so that he could sleep with his girl. Yeah, and Wolverine wants to sleep with Jean Grey, a teenager, when Wolverine is in his 30s, at least in the Ultimate Universe. Oh, and there's also a romantic relationship between Wanda and Pietro, which is probably the scariest thing in this reality, on this Earth, and the reason I wanted it on this list. And at 9, Thanos wins. While the heroes of the MCU already received a little bit of a taste of a reality in which Thanos achieved his ultimate goal by erasing half the population of the universe in Avengers Infinity War, there exists a still darker universe where Thanos wins. Determined to finally impress death, Thanos eradicated every living being on planet Earth, including the superheroes and Frank Castle. The former Punisher made deals with both Mephisto and Galactus to find a new life of vengeance as the Cosmic Ghost Rider and stop King Thanos' dark reality from ever happening. As time went by though, the heroes of Earth grew old and weak, but Thanos only grew stronger, his eternal quest to please death leading him to kill almost every living thing in the known galaxy, and becoming the king of what remained in his wake. Nothing. I don't know why you'd want to be king of nothing. Seems pointless in my opinion, and I'm a king, so I feel like my expertise here, but whatever, okay, as long as it's not this universe, I'm fine with it. Oh, and not only that, but knowing that he had to die in order to be with death, King Thanos gave a piece of the Time Stone to his servant, the Rider, and tasked him with going back in time to drag his younger self to the future so that he could be killed by present Thanos. And at 8, Age of Ultron. Ultron 1320 comes from Earth 14622, and What If Age of Ultron number 1, an Earth where, thanks to Wasp dying, Ultron is able to take over the world faster. Ultron was created to be the ultimate AI by Hank Pym, to help the Avengers utilize their function better as a team. But with the untimely death of Pym's wife, Pym went on to create a more brutal version of Ultron, which was to replace the Avengers. But with this, Ultron's sentience began to constantly evolve. He started the eradication of the human race by taking out such threats as the Avengers and the Defenders, while he left Pym alive to watch him suffer. Ultron and his army of Ultron Sentinels then moved to Kola, Russia, so that he could bore himself into the planet's core to create the ultimate version of himself, Ultron 1320. Ultron then had his minions batter and beat Pym unconscious until he woke up to find that he himself had been turned into Ultron 1321. This version of Ultron also invaded other worlds, claiming Earth 62412, 23223, and 81223, but was stopped on Earth 45162. In its 7th Age of Apocalypse, Earth 295 is a reality that was accidentally created by Legion, son of X-Men leader Professor Charles Xavier and Israeli diplomat Gabriel Haller. Legion believed that the only way to bring peace to humans and mutants was to kill Magneto before he could incite the anti-mutant movement. He traveled back to a time when Xavier and Magneto both lived in Israel and were working at a hospital, taking the X-Men Storm, Iceman, Bishop, and Psylocke back with him. Legion tried to stab Magneto with a Psyblade, but Xavier shielded Magneto and was killed instead. By killing his own father, Legion then made his own existence impossible. The Macron Crystal resolved the paradox by restructuring reality. All the X-Men vanished from that reality, and a new reality came into existence. Bishop, already displaced in time, remained, but the chronal backlash fractured his mind. He wandered Earth for nearly 20 years, and then that superpowered fight attracted the attention of Apocalypse, who then basically took over and destroyed everything. In its 6th, Old Man Logan. 50 years later, Logan lives with his wife Maureen and his son Scotty and daughter Jade on a plot of land in Sacramento. What used to be California, but is now part of Hulkland. He requires money to pay his rent to the landlords of his territory, the descendants of Bruce Banner, the Hulk Gang, who are a product of just a whole lot of crap, okay? Just give me a minute. He refuses to sell his children's toys to pay for the rent, understandably, and Logan is shown as a broken old man, refusing to fight anyone and trying to live peacefully. He realizes that he will be unable to pay the rent this month, and that the Hulk Gang will not accept a plea to pay double next month on its own. Oh, by the way, the Hulk Gang is a inappropriately and unconsensually conceived group of children of the Hulk and She-Hulk, Bruce's cousin. Yeah. The Hulk gang arrives the next day to confront Logan on his lack of payment and then violently beat him, even though he was one of the most violent superheroes ever. Though Logan entertains visions of gutting the eldest Hulk brother Otis, he remains calm and just lets the beating happen. Later though, the Hulk gang kills his family, so Logan goes on to kill the whole Hulk gang. But it's still a messed up Earth, okay? It is. Halfway through into number 5, Earth X. The entire world has mutated due to the release of the Terrigen mists in the air. The now blind Watcher recruits Aaron Stack to be his eyes and inform him of what's going on Earth. X-51 finds that in this new world where everyone has superhuman abilities, a young man named the Skull is attempting to take over the world, and Captain America and a band of former champions of Earth have rallied together to stop him. But there's more going on here than meets the eye. It is learned that the Celestials have manipulated the people of Earth into being antibodies for a celestial embryo that is growing in the Earth's core. With humanity in a state of mutation that is not destined to happen for another 300 years, the Celestials come to cleanse the human race from the face of the Earth. Only the intervention of Reed Richards, Black Bolt, and Franklin Richards, who is now Galactus, stop the Celestials and destroys the thing growing at the center of the Earth. At the end of the battle, Galactus returns to space, and Reed has giant human torches built around the Earth to burn the Terrigen mists out of the air in an attempt to return humanity back to their former state. In at 4, Ruins. While Marvel was showcasing their best and brightest with Earth 616, Ruins takes a dark and twisted look at an alternate Marvel Earth where everything could have gone wrong, and it does, in the worst possible ways. The various scientific accidents and experiments that created Marvel's heroes went extremely wrong in the Ruins reality, alright? The Fantastic Four died on their test run in space, Bruce Banner was transformed into a living mass of tumors instead of the Hulk, and Peter Parker's spider bite left him with a terrifyingly infectious disease that ultimately ends up killing the narrator of the story in the truly darkest Marvel timeline. However, this is basically how the creators thought the world would be if superheroes were real. It is in essence a combination of Earth 616 and our world, with the idea of what would happen realistically if this was our world being the founding thoughts for the Ruined storylines. And it's hella messed up, but I don't think that in this world Bruce would grow tumors, okay? I think he would just die. Probably from cancer, but still, okay, it's a more realistic version, but a much darker version of the realism. Getting close to the end in number 3, Earth 666. First appearing in Secret Adventures number 33 from 2012, on Earth 666, everyone in the world is one of the undead, but this isn't Marvel Zombies. I was told not to talk about Marvel Zombies. The living were not endured on this world, nor do they welcome interdimensional police. The Orb of Necromancy was hidden by Brother Voodoo, who put it deep in Shumagorath's ego maze. In the center tower, where an undead celestial was located and who was their god, and with the orb, they plan to spread undeath to all of reality. And it's currently in a unique position, as its population is divided between a variety of subtypes of supernatural creatures. Vampires, werewolves, mummies, among others. The divide between the various groups is social and deeply rooted, with parts of the world being ruled by various factions. However, in this world there is some hope, as the greatest heroes of the various groups are united to protect the world as the Avengers of the Undead. Basically, if Marvel met Supernatural, especially that episode where like there was like the Chicago monster families and it was like a parody of the Mafia, that's what's going on. Especially because Captain America's shield is made of vibranium, not silver. Get it? Cause Cap's a werewolf this time? The alternative to the number 666 in some translations of the Bible is actually 616, the number used for Marvel's Prime Earth, so there you go. But ultimately, in number 2, Hulk number 3. The world first explored in Hulk number 3 from 2021 is quite an interesting one. Here we meet another Bruce Banner who doesn't actually have a Hulk form. Instead, his Game of Bombs were a success, but the government then took them and then started using them against their enemies, which caused intense radiation that turns those affected into, as the military called them, bio-waste casualties, which in this reality are their own versions of Hulk and She-Hulk, horrifically disfigured for the most part. This Earth's version of Bruce ends up disposing of these Hulks by throwing them into the void, which even he doesn't know where it sends them. Although, if I'm being honest, this kind of reminds me of the Rick Potion number 9 episode of Rick and Morty season 1. You know, like the one where Morty wants to go to the dance with Jessica, but he ends up giving her like a love potion, but it's flu season, and then Rick tries to fix everyone by turning everyone into praying mantises, and then combination of like a load of different DNAs that was supposed to equal human but doesn't. Yeah, that's kind of how I see these Hulks, but to not such an extreme where Bruce needs to like change worlds. And finally, into number 1, the Cancerverse. The Cancerverse is a reality where life finally defeated death, with eternal life being fueled by the many-angled ones. Every living being in this universe was corrupted and turned to their servitude, resulting in a universe-wide living corpse, which means that they aren't zombies, okay, since zombies are undead and nobody in this earth can die. Before the death of Captain Marvel, with no cure or anything to save him, his terminal condition caused such distress among the people who adored him. Across the universe, all of the empathetic trauma was sensed by the many-angled ones. They reached out to the dying Marvel to give them one simple truth: even death may die. While Avengers, Defenders, X-Men, Fantastic Four, and other heroes were present for a vigil at his deathbed at this point, Marvel transmuted his closest allies, among them the Avengers, now the Revengers. Despite the opposition of many, including seemingly at least members of the Machine Resistance, the corrupted heroes performed a ritual known as necropsy, sacrificing the avatar of death on the spacecraft Sanctuary and consequently annihilating death itself. Yeah, that's all the time we have for today, friends. Thank you all so much for watching. I have been in Shower Main Connor Monroe, and I'll see you in another video.